Wel, prynhawn da pawb and croeso y ginio ar y hyd. Hello everyone and welcome once again to the Happy Cymru Cook Along. My name is Richard and heddiw today we are celebrating British Pea Week. And yes, I promise you it is a proper week and we're celebrating everything that you can possibly do with a tin of peas, but also with a bag of frozen peas as well. Because as you know, we're not quite into pea season yet, so I'm not quite sure why it's British Pea Week, but we're getting those recipes in as much as we can this week. So what we are going to be doing today is I've got a wonderful little Indian dish, don't know what happened there, called pea pakoras, and we're going to serve that with a little cucumber raita. We've got a little pea and mint soup, and then I've got a delicious little pea pate, which I promise you is really, really, really blasus iawn, super tasty. Now then, as with all of the cook-alongs, now that I've got all of my computer bits sorted, I'm very excited because I've had a week off, so I'm back in work and a little bit overexcited today, so I do apologise. Now that I've got all of those bits sorted, just quickly need to go and wash my hands and then I will be back in the room. So this is your 20-second warning. Go and grab yourself a little drink, pen and paper if you want to take any notes, and I will be back in the next 19 seconds and 53 milliseconds. So bear with me and I will be back. Well, prynhawn da pawb and croeso ac y ginio ar y hyd. Hello everyone and welcome once again to the Happy Cymru Cook Along. As you can see on the notice board, we are celebrating British Pea Week today, and we are going to be creating 3 delicious little pea recipes, all of which are super easy, and personally I think they're all cowing lush as well. So let me just dry my hands. Paper towel goes into there. Let me grab some antibacterial gel and I am back in the room. So as with all of the cook-alongs, now that I've washed my hands, and I can start off with the official part, and then it probably will, as it is my first week back, or first session back rather, go downhill from there. So my official part this afternoon is prynhawn da pawb and croeso ac y ginio ar y hyd. Good afternoon everybody and welcome once again to the Happy Cymru Cook Along. My name is Richard, and as I might have mentioned a couple of times today, we are celebrating in today's session British Pea Week. Yes, I promise you it is a proper week, and you've got to be careful what pea you're talking about. It's the one that ends in an E and an A, not the 2 E's, right? British peas, when they come into season, are absolutely fantastic. And believe it or not, right, peas are one of my favourite vegetables, right? But as I've been travelling around over a number of years across sort of Wales, I've met quite a few people that don't like the crunchy bit of peas. I don't understand it, right? But I love peas, particularly when they're fresh. And you can see for our first recipe today, which is going to be an Indian style dish, we've got a combination of tinned peas and also fresh peas. So we're going to be using both of those. When I say fresh, they're actually defrosted from the freezer, right? What I am going to do is I'm hoping that after my week off, my computer system is still working. If I click that button just there, yes it has, I can see it on my screen just there, and I just need to move that one over to there. You can see on the side just there that the first recipe that I am going to be doing are some wonderful and delicious pea pakoras, and I promise you they are absolutely cowing lush. These would be served traditionally. You would have them as chicken pakoras or onion pakoras or sweet potato pakoras, but we're using peas today, which I promise you are absolutely delicious. An Indian style dish, which I promise you as a little snack is absolutely fantastic. With a meal is absolutely brilliant. Okay, and as you know, as you can see on the ingredients list, I'm going to start off with the star of the show, which is our peas. And I'm doing a half quantity today. So what I've got is I've got half a can of peas, and then to make it up to, rather than 200 but 100 grams, I added a handful of frozen peas, which are now defrosted, and the frozen peas will also give it a brighter sort of colour. So we're going to pop all of those in just like that, and the key is that these need to be mashed, right? So all that we're going to do is, I've just got a little potato masher just there. You want them fairly chunky, right? But just crush them down a little bit, right? If you haven't got a potato masher, you could easily use a fork as well. In actual fact, in the small bowl, with the amount that I've got in there, it probably would be easier with a fork. I'll try mashing again in a couple of moments. So those are my peas just there. And then we've got a couple of other things, right? I've got one onion, or half an onion for me this afternoon, that I have finely chopped. So all of that's just going to go in there just as so. I'll pop that there for now. I've then got some potatoes, which I will need to grate, and I've also got a little bread roll just there as well, right? And what I've chosen to use today is a small can of new potatoes, right? And you know that I love using new potatoes, basically because they've already been peeled, they've already been cooked for us, so they're really easy to grate or mash, right? If I was going to mash these, I would pop them into the microwave just to heat up for about 2 minutes, because they'll be easier to mash, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grate them, right? So I've got my little box grater just there, and this is the easiest thing ever, right? Just watch your fingers when you come to the end, and we're just going to grate those down just like that, right? So we're just grating all of those down, and you end up with lovely little sort of pieces, and we're going to carry on mashing them in a couple of moments, because when I prepared these earlier, it was easier when the bowl was a little bit fuller, right? So I'm just going to grate all of those down, and grating these is really, really easy. And if you like things like potato rosti and things like that, where you use grated potato, right, using canned potatoes is just as good, and often, right, sometimes a little bit cheaper, because all the potatoes have cooked, so you don't have to pre-cook the potatoes or anything like that, right? So we're just going to pop that just into there just as so, and you can see that I have got all of my little potato just like that, right? So I'm going to pop all of my grated potato, that was half a can of potatoes, and even a half mixture will easily make 8 little pakoras, right, depending on what size you're doing. Is really, really good. So the next thing, I've got my little part-baked roll to make my easy sort of breadcrumbs, and I find this the easiest way of doing it. It's one of those wholemeal part-baked rolls, which you can get one from the discount supermarkets, and really, really good, makes perfect breadcrumbs. And I'm just going to use half a roll today, and I can use the rest of that for afterwards, because looking at our recipe card, you've got it on there, I got it on my screen just there, you need 50 grams, that's 50 grams in total, so I'm just going to add 25 grams just like that, right? Then, as I said, what you can then do is nice and easy to mash it all up just like that, right? But I think my bowl might be a bit too small, so I'm going to go down the other route, grab myself a little fork, and then you can mash like that. That would be easier, right? So I might have had a week off and my common sense hasn't caught up yet. So we're popping all of those in just like that. Then the next thing, I'm just going to get rid of all of this bit off just here, is we need to add our herbs and our spices. I've put on the basic spices there, which would be 2 teaspoons of your curry powder. I've only got 1, right, because obviously I'm doing a half quantity, and you need some mixed herbs. But I'm going to add even more flavour, right? I've raided, as you can see, my spice and herb cupboard, right? I've got a little bit of cumin. That's just going to add a little underlying sort of Indian sort of flavour to it. I've got my trusty turmeric, which is going to help to change the colour. But also, as I've mentioned before, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of that. As I've mentioned before, if you suffer with joint pain, then turmeric is one of those things that can, it's a natural anti-inflammatory, but you do need to have some black pepper with it, right, to aid the absorption. I've then got my trusty mixed herbs, so I'm going to add a little bit of my mixed herbs, but I've got other ones, right. I've recently discovered my new favourite dried herb, which is coriander leaf. Still has a little bit of flavour of coriander, but as it starts to absorb all of those the liquid from in there, it starts to generate lots of flavour. I've got my garlic granules, or as you can see on the recipe card, 2 cloves of garlic, right? So I've got 1 teaspoon of garlic granules, and I've got my official bit of parsley as well, because parsley goes everywhere. So we've got all of those, and all of those are just going to go in to there just as so, right? The last thing is I've got a little bit of egg, right? This is half an egg. I'm going to add 1/4 of it just there because I used half for earlier, and that will just help to bind everything together, right? So we've got all of that mixture just going in there, and you can see that it's starting to combine just like that. It's quite a wet mixture anyway, but it does really work. Now I had some flour somewhere. I was trying to find out where it was, and it's just behind me. So let me just push those over there, and I'll pop that back up there just like that, and I can pull these out just as so, right? Then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to mould these into little sort of balls, and I'll show you what they look like in a couple of moments. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of water just into there, and there's method in my madness, right? I've got a little bit of flour ready for afterwards. The other bits just going behind the recipe card, and let me grab one of these, right? So I'm back in the room, and I'm going to swap my fork for a little spoon, and depending on how big you want these, just depends on how big your spoon is, right? And when I was making the bean burgers just before sort of half term, as you know, I always like to wet my hands, and by wetting your hands, right, it means that nothing will stick. So just taking a little spoonful like that, and all that I'm going to do is in my hand I squish it into a little ball just as so, right? Then I'm going to pop a little bit of flour onto my sort of holding tray, as I'm going to call it, right? And then I can roll it around like that, and these are just little balls of tastiness, right? They are absolutely delicious. So I'm just going to squeeze those just like that. You don't have to wet your hands every single time, just until you've got those like that. Then roll it in your flour, and that will aid it to stop sticking to anything, but also dry it out just a little bit, right? So I'm going to do one more, and then what you're going to do, as I said, squeeze it in your hands just like that, roll it in the flour, and then you've got those just there. And you can make these in advance, and it's a good idea to make these in advance, because basically you then, once they are rolled up, you then need to leave them for a good half hour to actually sort of just trying to find a surface under the table to sort of firm up, right? So once they're done, they will, just going behind the screen, they will end up looking just like that, right? And then we're ready to sort of cook them. Now then, there's lots of ways in which you could cook them. You could quite easily pop them onto a baking tray, drizzle a little bit of oil over them, not a huge amount, okay, and then bake them off in the oven. You could cook them in the frying pan, or as I've done today, I've got my new little machine. I was spending over the half-term holidays. I've got a mini, and it is a very much a mini sort of air fryer, right? And obviously that doesn't use a huge amount of oil either. So let me just pop those over there. I'm just going to quickly wash my hands, and then I'm going to come back into the room. So whilst I am quickly washing my hands, don't forget that if you have any comments or questions about this afternoon's session, about the recipes, or any recipes or hints or tips that you want for any recipe, then please do write them in the comments page, and either myself or one of the Happy team will be able to answer those questions for you. So let me just pop those underneath there, and they will take those little pakoras between sort of 15 to 20 minutes to bake off in the oven at 190 degrees. If you're going to do them in a little sort of air fryer, if you've got an air fryer at home, they'll take between sort of 10 to 15 minutes, right? But I promise you they are absolutely delicious. Now then, I've got them just in there. I don't know whether you can see them just in there, but they have turned into these lovely little balls, right? But I'm not going to pull that out because it's just finished. But what I am going to serve this with is an Indian sort of style raita, right? I've just got some thick sort of low-fat Greek yogurt just there, and in here I've already chopped up some onion and some cucumber. I remove the skin of the cucumber just so it's not as sort of fibrous. So I'm going to pop all of that in just like that. And personally, I discovered over half term that cucumber has never been my favourite vegetable, right? But if I remove the outside skin, it's actually passable as a vegetable for me to eat, right? So that's why I've removed it today. The last thing I'm going to add, I've got some fresh mint just here, so I'm just going to tear up my little fresh mint just like that. And this is just a lovely, lovely little dip. The last thing then, once I've got my mint in there, they were the two biggest sort of mint leaves. I've got a little bit of cumin, which again is that background sort of Indian flavour to lots of different things. I'm also going to add a little bit of black pepper, just like that, and then I'm going to give it a little mix in one direction. I could have chosen a smaller couldn't have chosen a smaller sort of bowl to mix it in, but you can see you've got that lovely little cucumber sort of raita just there. I'm going to finish it off not with parsley but with some coriander just there, because obviously we're trying to add as many flavours apart from salt. So you can see that you've got your delicious little cucumber raita just there. So let me grab another one of those, going behind my little recipe card. So with my little cucumber raita, I'm just going to pour it into my little pot just there. And then I have got my little pakoras. So let me grab my little Indian pea style pakoras just there. And as I said, you can have these as a little snack, or you can have them as a complement to a little meal. And I promise you, they are absolutely delicious. So I've got this mint from the garden, so I'm going to use it, right? So I'm going to pop a little bit of mint just in like that. And I'm going to finish it off with a sprinkling today, not of parsley, but my new favourite herb, which is that flat leaf sort of dried coriander. And you can see that we have got our delicious pea pakoras just there with that easy cucumber raita. And I promise you, you can make those in advance. Fantastic as a little sort of picnic snack or anything like that. I've got a money spider on me. Oh, so good news. So we've got those just there. So that is our little pea pakoras just there. The next two recipes that we're going to be making, or the next recipe rather, is our little pea and mint sort of soup. So what I am going to do just while I am resetting is, if I remove our pea pakora recipe just like that, and then I will add the, yes it has, we have then got our little sort of soup recipe just there. So let me just change my screen over just like that so I'm able to see. And I've done a little bit of preparation for this recipe because it does take a little while, not a huge amount of time. It takes about 10 minutes to make this pea a mint soup, but I've done a little bit of pre-preparation. And as you can see on there, we've got 1 teaspoon of oil, and basically what I did before today's started today's session, I fried off in 1 teaspoon of oil 1 onion, a stick of celery, and 1 medium potato, or I cheated and used about 4 or 5 little canned new potatoes, because it was all about the canned potatoes today. Once they were nicely browned, I added a stock cube and the water. So I'm doing a half quantity today, so I added 300 mils of water into my saucepan, brought it up to the boil, and then let it simmer for about 5 minutes, and you end up with this base sort of stock, right? And as I've mentioned before, the basis of any soup is always, right, onion, celery, and also potato if you want to thicken it up, right? Plus your stock cube. You sometimes add a colour, depending, a carrot rather than a colour, to add a little colour, right? So all that we're going to do, once that's brought up to the boil, so that's already cooked, but what I'm going to just do just here, and it's on lock for some reason, let me just turn that off. I'm going to turn that on just like that. I'm going to bring that up to the boil, right? And then I've got some defrosted little peas just there. I'm not going to cook them, right? I'm just going to heat them through, right? We're going to heat them through, and then I've got some mint, which we're then going to add right at the end. So I'm just going to take the mint leaves off, and you need, the recipe says, as you can see, 3 dessert spoons, right? Which works out about 2 sprigs, right? Depending on how minty you sort of want it. And I'm just going to grab myself, excuse me 1 second, just going to grab myself a chopping board, and there's lots and lots of ways, just grabbing myself a knife, of chopping sort of mint, right? You could just get the large knife and chop it like that, but if you want to be quite chefy, we're just going to do these little chiffonade pieces. So you pop your leaves on the top just like that of each other, roll it round just as so, fingers as that little claw, and then you can do these little chiffonade pieces just like that. And the chiffonade is just a little strip just like that, right? So going back to this is now boiling. It's already cooked beforehand, so I'm going to add, I'm doing a half quantity, so I'm going to add 250 grams of peas. As I said, I'm just heating those through, right? They were already defrosted, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop up this mint just here as so, and then so I'm just heating those through. I'm not allowing it to boil, I'm just heating it through, right? So I've got my mint just there, and I'm going to blitz my soup up with my little hand blender. So I'm just going to grab my little hand blender just there. Just make sure that if you are a younger person, please, please, please make sure that you have got an adult to help you with this next bit. So that's now sort of boiling, and that's literally all that I need, because it's going to heat up in its own juices. And obviously if you heat peas too much, right, cook them in liquid too much, they're going to lose their colour. So that's why we're only just sort of heating them through. So lots of noise now, so talk amongst yourselves. Again, if you've got any questions, then please pop them onto the screen, and I will be back in the room once I've done this. So bear with me 1 second. So you can see that we're starting to get that lovely green sort of colour, and it's a perfect sort of summer looking soup, right? And this is where I realised that I probably need a new blender, right? So you can start to see that we're starting to get that lovely thick and creamy soup. So I'm going to add my mint just there, and if it's too thick you can always add more liquid. That's how I like to do soups, right? And it also helps to cool it down before you come to eat it as well. So let me just mix all of that in just as so. There we go. So this is starting to mix up. Just going to grab a little bit more water just here, because I think when I was doing it earlier, it might have. So I'm just creating my final smooth soup. Just like that. So let me get rid of that just as so. The other way of doing it, and I thought about it now, I could have done it earlier, is get my sort of NutriBullet style sort of blender out, and that would work really, really well, right? But we've got our beautiful, you can see that, can't get my words out, that wonderful bright sort of green colour just there, right? So let me show you how we're going to serve it today. I'm going to serve it with some delicious little cheese and herb scones. I'm going to I've gone behind my little sort of recipe card, and I can now pop my ladle in just like that, pop it 3/4 in, and then pop that just into there just as so. That goes in like that. Pop that on, and I'm going to have one more ladle just like that, and you can see that we have got our beautiful, wait for it, let me just get my final sprig of mint just there, right? That goes on just like that. Hasn't quite worked because it's sunk in, right? But you can see that we have got our pea mint soup with some cheese and herb scones, and I promise you that on a summer's day, right, even though it's hot, right, it's absolutely delicious. You could cool it down and serve it as a cold soup as well, but I'm not personally not a fan of cold soup, right? So the final thing that we have got, and I'm just going to change my recipe card over, so let me remove that one. There we go, and I will pop that one on just there. There we are. We have got, and let me just change my recipe card just over just here. The wrong one. There we go. We've got our, as it's called on there, super pea pate, right? And I promise you, some people think, oh, I don't know whether I like the sound of that, but it's absolutely blassis yow. So let me just change over my little blenders just here, and the first thing that we have got is we need to blend up some peas. So as you can see on there, it's 450 grams if you're doing the large quantity, but I'm doing a half quantity today, so I've got 225 grams of peas just in here, and literally all that we're going to do is we're going to blitz them up into a nice keeping it a little bit chunky, but a nice little sort of paste, right? So I'm just literally just blending them up just slightly until they're roughly chopped, right? So not a paste at all, but roughly chopped just like that. In actual fact, I might have to just pop them in just once again, right? Just until they're roughly to finely chopped, just like that. You can tell it's my first session back, right? I'm still in holiday mode. So we got those just there, and going behind that just there, and let me grab out a little bowl just like this, right? And this pea pate is so easy, it is unbelievable, right? So I'm going to pop all of my peas just into there. I'll grab that bit just as so, and then you can see they haven't been cooked, they've just been allowed to defrost, so you've got that wonderful bright green sort of colour, right? Then we've got some other flavours and some other ingredients that we are going to be adding, right? So the first vegetables that we're going to be adding is I've got half a red onion just there, or one small red onion, and I've got about a quarter of, or half of a red pepper, right? So all of that goes in just like that. So that's going to start to add lots and lots of colour, right? And you can see that it's starting to add loads of colour sort of there. Then we're going to add our flavourings, and we've got some mint that we're going to add in a couple of moments, because obviously pea and mint is a really good sort of combination, right? I don't know why I've got my lemon juice just there. I think it was just left there, right? So I've got a little bit of cumin just there, about half a teaspoon of cumin. Again, that's going to give a little base sort of flavour. I'm then going to add some chili flakes, or I didn't have any chili flakes, so I've got this harissa style seasoning, which is basically chili flakes anyway. So I'm going to add a little bit of that goes in there just as so. And then I have got my trusty parsley just going in, as much of that as you want. We've got a clove of garlic, or your garlic granules, so that goes in just as so. And then I've got some mixed herbs. Again, as with all of the cooking that we do with the Happy Project, we're trying to reduce the amount of salt that we're eating, so we're adding lots and lots of other flavours, right? So that goes in just like that. Then I've got some yoghurt just there, so I'm going to add about 1 and 2 teaspoons of yoghurt just like that for starters, and we can give that just a little mix around just as so. And I promise you, right, I've served this for family and friends when we were allowed people over, right, and they thought it was absolutely delicious when you serve it with loads of vegetables and things like that. So let me just pop those behind me. This place looks like a bomb's hit it today. I do apologise, right? And then the final thing that we are going to add is we've got our little mint leaves. Now it says 10 mint leaves just there. I'm going to add 5 mint leaves, and I'm just going to grab my little sort of chopping board back, and I'm just going to finely chop those just as so. So again, your little chiffonade sort of pieces just as so, just like that. So all of those go into there. So you've got those fresh peas with your fresh mint, and it smells absolutely blasses down, right? So you've got that just there. And then the final thing, I'm just going to grab myself, go behind the screen, I'm going to grab myself just a couple of little plates. So I've got that just there. As I said, you could serve this with some vegetables as little crudités. You could serve it on some little homemade little toasts, right? But I've just got some pittas just there. So I'm just going to pop my little pea sort of pate just in there. And I promise you, this is absolutely blasses iawn, super tasty, right? Really crunchy. So that goes just there. I can get rid of that now. That goes into there, and we have got our little sort of pita bread that you can tear and share just like as so. So pop those just there, and you can see that we've got our little pea pate with our little sort of dipping sort of sauce, which is our pita bread today. So that brings me, you'll be pleased to know, because now I can stop wittering on, right? That brings me to the end of today's sort of session. So let me just pull those ones over just like that. So to celebrate British Pea Week, we have got our pea pakoras and our little cucumber raita. We've got our little fresh pea pate served with our pita breads, and we've got our pea and mint soup just there. So as I said, that brings me to the end of today's session. I hope that you have enjoyed. Don't forget that all the recipe cards are available on the Facebook page as well as our website too. I look forward to seeing you again on Thursday, and we're moving on from British celebrating British Pea Week on Thursday. We're moving on to, and I'm very excited because they're my favourite thing, international, not just British, but international falafel day. So we're going to be making some homemade chickpea falafels, and we're going to be serving them with lots of other things as well. So all that leaves me to say is diolch yn fawr, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very, very soon. Diolch yn fawr, and coginio hapus.